As a part of our focus on the coal research at Brookings India, we have recently completed this study on the future coal demand 2020, a bottom-up calculation. This study essentially proves or empirically proves that we will not require the more than say 1.2 billion tons of coal by 2020. Based upon this background, my co-author Dr. Rahul Tongia would want to answer this question about what, taking a 30,000 feet view, what does that mean for the Indian context? If we do not require as much amount of coal that is being targeted by the ministry, what does it mean for India?
Thank you, Anurag. In our study, we use a term that some people may find inappropriate, which is a mismatch. That is there a mismatch between supply and demand of coal targets or energy targets? Because when we study coal, we have to study the power sector in detail. It's the largest user of coal in India, and 3/4 of electricity in India is generated from coal. So digging in a little deeper, we do find that the growth rates, the targeted growth of supply that the ministry is pushing for, an ambitious target, is higher than it can actually be absorbed. And our study, as available on the website, has many more details on the calculations. So what does this mean? How did we come into this position? All of these have to be answered in context. A few years ago, India was facing enormous shortfalls of both power and coal. Power plants had very little supply, only a few days of coal, and we were importing heavily, even when global coal prices were very high. Now, we actually have surpluses of coal at the power plants, and the demand, some people say, isn't there. Which is actually not true. There has been enormous growth of power demand. It's just that the supply has grown faster than this high demand. So, is that a mismatch, or just something that's cyclic that will equalize itself in the coming few years? So even if people say, oh, we are surplus now, that may not last very long. So in fact, many people ask this question, that is India now a power surplus nation? And that cannot be unpacked without a little more detail. The way some of these calculations are done is that there is sufficient supply of power most of the time, or on average. But there can be periods and locations where there is insufficient supply, witnessed by load shedding, especially in rural areas. Now, how this is still calculated as being surplus is because there is enough power to meet all the power that is being asked for by the states. But what if they're not asking for that power from the generators, either because of ability to pay or for pricing issues? Because of course, one can never answer the question of supply and demand without factoring in prices. A lot of scholars believe that true surplus power, which we are moving towards, and the shortfalls are now better than ever before, will come when there is 24/7 power for every household across India. So Anurag, when we look at coal, when we look at power, a lot of countries around the world are moving away from fossil fuels for multiple reasons. Do you think that's in India's future? Should we stop even moving towards new coal because now renewables are growing very much?
Right. So, of course, renewables are growing a lot, and there are 3 distinct categories of countries across the world which have approached this subject differently. Many countries have taken one extreme, wherein they have banned the use of nuclear or coal-based, fossil fuel-based power. Some countries have now introduced measures in place wherein only renewable power.
When you say ban, you mean they're shutting down?
They're shutting down, yeah. They're shutting down the capacities. Many countries have now said that whatever happened in the past is done. We'll continue with persist with those capacities, but additional capacity is going to be non-fossil based, and it's only renewable capacity which is going to come up. India probably falls on the third category, wherein we cannot, based upon our domestic compulsions and the energy security requirements, wish away coal completely, neither in the past nor in the upcoming future, in the next 5-10 years. We are going to have to live with new power capacity, fossil-based power capacity come up, but which is much more efficient than what was there in the past. Plus also, at the same time, we'll also have more and more renewable capacity coming online, as Government of India Ministry of New and Renewable Energy targets have said of reaching 175 GW by 2022. So yeah, the future of India is definitely greener than in the past, but it's not a straight-jacketed kind of thing altogether.
So if I have to bring these two together, we will have coal, we will grow RE, but there's a third leg which should actually be the new focus of what India needs, which is balancing the grid and keeping the portfolio whole. Coal is a baseload power supply. Renewables are opportunistic, which means in the absence of a battery, you take it when the sun shines or when the wind blows. What do you do when the wind dies or the sun goes away? So you need peakers. India's peak demand is in the evening. I think that will be the next frontier where India needs new investment, new capacity, as well as new pricing signals. The grid and the consumers have to be willing to pay for that. Peaking power is more expensive than average. That's been the gap in India's energy portfolio. Other countries have addressed it. There are new tools. Batteries are evolving and getting cheaper, but not quite there yet. But there are other techniques, including traditional peakers, from hydro to gas to diesel or even internal combustion engine, or demand response, where instead of adding adding supply, you can decrease load in a controllable manner. That's a smart grid type of future. So all of these may need to be worked on for India to get its portfolio right, to meet 24/7 power for all.